effective customer service.
Good morning, everyone. A couple Saturdays ago, I got the privilege to attend the local District 40 Toastmaster humor speech and tabletop contest. Not only did I get to meet some great people at this competition, but people from the various Toastmaster clubs around Central Ohio. I also got to see what it's like to compete at the divisional level. Let me tell you, I was pretty impressed. The thing that kind of stuck out with me most and inspired me the most was finding out that a number of the speakers that were up there had only been in their respective Toastmaster clubs for 3 months or just over that. So that was kind of inspiring, you know, someone to be there that short of a time and have the guts to go in front of a particularly large group like that. One of the newer speakers was a gentleman who did a humorous speech contest, and when it was all said and done, he got second place out of 6 people, so not too bad. But the reason that I mention him today is I really enjoyed the perspective that he took in his speech, because it sounded like it was going to be something kind of mundane. The title of the speech was The Seven Habits ... And what he managed to do was he turned it into one of the funniest teaching lessons that I've ever seen. Now you're probably wondering how the 7 habits of highly effective people could be a remotely funny speech topic. Well, the ringer to this is that his speech was entitled The 7 Habits of Mildly Effective People. What he did is he took everything that you and I know about what it takes to be an effective leader, and he broke it down into what it takes to be an average person. It was actually one of the funniest speeches of the day, and the room was in stitches. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, I stand before you today in an attempt to mimic this person's warped perspective, and I've given you my 4 tips on using negative reinforcement for effective customer service. Let's get started, shall we? Tip number 1. Instruction manuals typically tell you that you should get your mind into a Zen-like state so that you can focus on the needs of the customer. And how do you do that? Typically, you take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and you try to calm your nerves. Well, I say hogwash. Why should you have to calm yourself down when you know that the person on the other end of that phone line is going to be fired up? I say you need to get just as fired up as they are. Put yourself on a level playing field with them. Here's what you need to do. Think about a recent memory that you had where you'd gotten angry with someone and you just wanted to wring their neck. Take that energy and pick up the phone. Now when the customer starts talking to you and they start spouting off about the problem that they're having, interject. Cut them off and say, listen, maybe if you'd taken 30 seconds and read the instruction manual, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So again, tip number 1, get angry before you answer the phone and put yourself on a level playing field with the person that you're talking to. Tip number 2, you ever heard this suggestion before? Put a happy smile on your face. Or I'm sorry, put on a happy face and smile real big before you start talking. And why do you do that? Well, supposedly smiling permeates your voice, travels into the phone, and kind of smacks the person on the other end with your happiness. I don't know about you, but the person on the other end of that phone is mad, and they kind of want to stay that way because their objective is probably to try and get something free from you. They don't want to have Mr. Happy Guy coming in there and trying to bring their spirits up until they get something free. So don't patronize the angry customer. I say take them head on. If you follow tip number 1, you're already angry. You're already on their level playing field. What you need to do is just continue with that matter and be short and gruff when you answer the phone. Say something like, what's up? This is Mark 5 Toastmasters. What do you want? If you do that, they'll be caught so off guard that they'll probably forget that they're even mad. If you're lucky, they'll actually start laughing because I guarantee you they've never even heard someone answer a phone like that in a professional manner. So again, tip number 2, answer the phone in a short and gruff manner. Tip number 3, now we're getting into the meat of the matter. You got the customer on the line and they're going through what their issue is, blah, blah, blah. Here's where you really need to be paying attention, taking notes, and getting ready to wow them with your incredible solution to their problem. Right? Wrong. What I say is, let the customer go on with their 5-minute oration about the problems they have with your product. Then when they're done, politely admit to them that you've been watching a YouTube video that a friend had sent you earlier this morning, and then ask them to repeat their argument. Only this time, you want to hear the Cliff's Notes version of their argument so that you don't have to sit there and be on the phone all day with them. Now, don't be surprised if the customer gets a little bit angry because, well, don't be surprised if the customer gets a little bit angry, but one thing is they need to be taught a lesson here. As customer service people, we don't like to sit there and listen to angry people ramble on and on about nothing. And if they would just take a minute to calm themselves down and gather their thoughts before they call, we'd probably be more responsive. So tip number 3, ignore the customer's first rant and then ask them for the Cliff's Notes version of their problem the second time through. And now finally, for the 4th tip, how many of you have ever heard this phrase? The customer is always right. I don't know what the person was thinking when they decided that was the rule for customer service, but the customer's always wrong, and they know it. The reason that they call you is because they're incompetent, and they're either too lazy or stubborn to read the instructions. So my advice to you is to call them out on their stupidity. Now, don't get me wrong here. You seriously need to be answering the person's issue and resolving it for them. And it's important that you do that because you don't want them calling someone else in your company and potentially your boss. But you have to do it in such a way that you make them feel stupid because you want them to never call back again. Well, you might ask, how do you go about doing that? Sarcasm is usually a pretty effective tool, but sometimes it's a little too subtle to get the point across. So one suggestion might be you pull out the package and you start reading the instruction manual word for word back. That usually gets the point. So again, tip number 4, resolve the customer's issue, but do it in such a way that you make them feel so stupid that they don't ever want to call back. Now as I move into my apogee, let me quickly go over those tips again and I'll tell you why this works. Tip number 1, get angry before you answer the phone. Tip number 2, answer the phone in a short and gruff manner. Tip number 3, ignore the customer's first rant and ask them for the Cliff's Notes version of their problem the second time through. And finally, tip number 4, resolve the customer's issue, but do it in such a way that you make them feel so stupid that they don't ever want to call you back. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. These unorthodox methods might actually work. Well, of course. The best part is you're going to be saving the company money through labor reduction. See, after about 6 months of this negative reinforcement technique, the number of calls coming in is going to decrease dramatically. And it's not going to be because of a loss of sales. You'll have your customers start reading their instructions first and thinking twice about calling you because nobody likes to be made to feel stupid.